My family humiliated me in front of 200 guests, then my husband made them regret every word I showed up alone. By the end of the night, they were whispering my name like it belonged in headlines. This happened about a year ago, but I still feel it in my bones sometimes. My name's Meredith Campbell. I'm 32. I live in Boston, and I work in counterintelligence. To most people, that sounds mysterious, but really it's just long hours, strategy, and a lot of silence. Silence is something I learned early. My family trained me well. In the Campbell household, appearances mattered more than truth. We had a 5-bedroom colonial in Beacon Hill. Perfectly manicured, perfectly fake. Inside, my parents, Robert and Patricia, treated me like a dull shadow next to my younger sister, Allison. Allison was their golden girl. Pretty, graceful, born for the spotlight. I was the practical one, the girl who blended into door frames while they bragged about Allison's recitals and trophies. Why can't you be more like your sister? That was the family anthem. No matter what I did, straight A's, early acceptance into Boston University, it was never enough. If Allison was sunlight, I was the reflection off someone else's window. By high school, I'd stopped trying to win them over, but the cuts kept coming. On my 16th birthday, Dad raised a toast, not to me, but to Allison's summer program at Yale. My cake sat untouched in the kitchen. Mom called it a scheduling oversight. In college, I worked 2 jobs to afford rent. Allison studied dance at Juilliard and had an entire cheering section at every show. At my graduation, Mom's first comment was, "At least you're being realistic with a government career." Dear. Translation, you'll never be glamorous, but at least you'll pay the bills. When I joined the FBI and later specialized in counterintelligence, they barely noticed. They still introduced me as our practical daughter, who does something in law enforcement. They said Allison's career brought culture to the family, so I built walls. Thick, tall, professional. I stopped sharing details. I skipped holidays. It hurt less to be invisible than mocked. Then I met Nathan Reed. It was at a cybersecurity conference. Ironic, given both of our jobs revolve around secrets. He was presenting a paper on encryption trends. I was evaluating vendors for federal contracts. He wasn't like the men I'd met before. No ego, no flattery, just curiosity. He asked about my work in a way that felt genuine, not performative. He listened. That's rarer than you think. Over coffee, we discovered a shared sense of humor and a mutual respect for privacy. I didn't know then that Reed Technologies was his. The Nathan Reed, the billionaire security architect whose software protected half the Fortune 500. He didn't volunteer that detail until weeks later, when we'd already connected as 2 humans instead of 2 resumes. We fell fast, but quietly. Between my classified assignments and his global contracts, our schedules rarely synced. When we married 18 months later, it was a small private ceremony, no press, no family, no spectacle, just us and 2 witnesses. It wasn't about secrecy for the thrill, it was protection of what we'd built, of my career, of his privacy, and maybe, deep down, it was also about keeping something for myself that my family couldn't ruin. 3 years later, I was the youngest deputy director in FBI counterintelligence. He was still globe-trotting between defense summits and board meetings. We kept our marriage off record. No social media, no leaks, just us. Then the wedding invitation arrived. Gold embossed, Allison Campbell and Bradford Wellington. The Wellingtons were Boston banking royalty. The invitation dripped entitlement. Nathan was in Tokyo, finalizing a multi-billion-dollar contract. "I can reschedule," he said. "No," I told him. "This deal matters." He hesitated. "I'll try to make it back for the reception." That's how I ended up alone, driving my black Audi to the Fairmont Copley Plaza Hotel, the cathedral of Boston high society. Hadn't seen my family in almost 2 years. My stomach twisted. The entire way there, the valet opened my door with a polished smile. "Evening, ma'am." I smoothed my emerald green dress, simple but elegant, and handed him the keys. Nathan had chosen the dress. He said it reminded him of calm under pressure. I clung to that thought as I stepped inside. The ballroom was Breathtaking. White orchids, crystal chandeliers, gold-trimmed everything. Exactly what Patricia Campbell would call tasteful. Exactly what I'd call theatrical. I handed my invitation to an usher. Table 19, he said, scanning the list. Not the family table, of course. I didn't even flinch. Meredith? My cousin Rebecca appeared, fake smiling. What a surprise. We weren't sure you'd come. She eyed my empty side. And alone? I did, I said calmly. How brave, she said. After what happened with that professor, what was his name? The one who left you for his student? I blinked. I've never dated a professor. Oh, she said with mock confusion. Mom must have mixed up the gossip. Right, sure. More relatives appeared. Each conversation was a repeat. Backhanded compliments, whispers, digs. Aunt Vivian commented that my haircut was sensible for your age. Uncle Harold laughed, asking if my government salary could buy decent shoes. Cousin Tiffany, Allison's maid of honor, air-kissed me. Love the dress. Is it from one of those discount boutiques you're so good at finding? I kept my composure, smiling through it all. I'd handled interrogation rooms colder than this. Then came my mother. Meredith, Patricia said, gliding up in pale blue silk that probably cost more than my rent. Your sister was worried you'd skip this one too. I wouldn't miss Allison's big day. Her eyes flicked down my dress, searching for flaws. Finally, she settled on, that color washes you out, dear. You should have consulted me, I smiled. Noted. Before I could escape, the orchestra swelled. The bride had arrived. Allison Campbell Wellington floated into the room like a living fairy tale. Every detail perfect. Dad's face glowed with pride I'd never once seen directed at me. I was ushered to table 19, far from the action, seated with distant cousins and elderly relatives who squinted trying to remember who I was. Oh, are you one of the Wellington girls? One asked. No, I said lightly. Robert and Patricia's other daughter. Her surprise stung more than it should have. Dinner was exquisite, conversation excruciating. At the family table across the room, laughter bubbled freely. My father held court. Allison sparkled. Mom glowed. I was invisible, and that was fine. Nathan texted, landing soon. Traffic heavy. ETA 45 min just a little longer, I told myself. Just survive the speeches. But then Dad stood up, microphone in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, he boomed. Today is the proudest day of my life. I froze. My beautiful Allison has made a match that exceeds even a father's hopes. Applause. Bradford Wellington isn't just a husband. He's joining a family built on excellence and achievement. I already knew where this was going. He raised his glass. To Allison, who has never disappointed us, applause again. The words sliced clean through me. I slipped away toward the terrace. Before my chest cracked open, the courtyard fountain shimmered under the evening lights. I took a breath, just wanting to be invisible again. Then Dad's voice boomed from behind me. Leaving so soon, Meredith? Hundreds of heads turned. He still held the microphone. Just getting some air, I said quietly. Running away, more like it. Laughter, classic Meredith, he said. Can't handle family obligations. Heat crawled up my neck. Dad, please. You missed half the wedding events, he said, pacing closer. You showed up alone again. Couldn't even find a date at 32, the crowd murmured. Meanwhile, your sister's married a Wellington. Laughter again, my throat tightened. Stop! It's exactly the time and place, he barked. Family achievement is worth celebrating. You wouldn't know. I looked at Mom. Nothing. Just that frozen social smile mask. Allison watched, delighted. You think we don't know why you hide behind that government job? He sneered. Always jealous. Always the disappointment. My voice came out steady. You have no idea who I am. Oh, I know exactly who you are, he said, and shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back into the fountain, cold, shock. The world froze, mid-laugh, then came the applause. Someone whistled, someone shouted, Nice splash! I rose, dripping, mascara running, silk clinging. Dad smirked. Mom half smiled. Allison beamed. The photographer clicked like it was entertainment. I straightened, every inch of me trembling, but not with shame. Remember this moment, I said. my voice cutting across the courtyard. Remember exactly how you treated me. Silence. I climbed out, water streaming down, heels slipping but head high. No one moved to help. For once, I didn't care. I walked straight through the ballroom, leaving a trail of water across their perfect carpet, and disappeared into the restroom. The mirror showed a wreck, ruined hair, ruined dress, but my eyes looked alive. I wasn't broken. I was done pretending. My clutch had stayed dry at the table, so my phone still worked. I texted Nathan. Dad pushed me into the fountain. In front of everyone, his reply came instantly. 10 minutes out. Security already in position. Of course he'd planned ahead. Nathan always did. I took one last look in the mirror, then changed into the backup black sheath dress I kept in the trunk. Occupational habit. When I stepped back into the ballroom, the party was in full swing again, like nothing had happened. My mother was laughing with her friends, probably rewriting the narrative already. Some people can't handle champagne, she'd be saying. I stopped behind her just long enough to hear, "We've tried everything with Meredith. Therapists, opportunities. Some people just refuse to thrive. Genetics are strange," one of her friends murmured. I said quietly, "Was humiliating me part of the itinerary, or did Dad improvise that?" Mom froze. "Don't be dramatic. You were trying to sneak out. He overreacted. By assaulting me?" She scowled. "Perhaps if you smiled more or brought a date, none of this would have happened." I smiled. "You'll see my date soon enough." Because at that exact moment, a ripple of movement rolled through the room, the kind of silence that follows wealth. Power or both. Two men in tailored suits walked in first, earpieces glinting under chandelier light. They scanned the crowd with the efficiency of professionals. People instinctively stepped aside. Dad puffed up his chest. "Excuse me, this is a private perimeter secure," one of the men said quietly into his mic. "Proceed." And then Nathan walked in. Tall, composed. The kind of presence that bends air around him. Dark hair slightly wine-tossed. Tom Ford suit perfectly cut. He found me instantly. His expression softened, and the smallest smile touched his lips. He crossed the ballroom in measured strides. No one stopped him. "Meredith," he said when he reached me. His voice low, steady, protective. "Sorry I'm late." "You're right on time," I said. He kissed me lightly, then turned to my stunned mother. "Mrs. Campbell, I'm Nathan Reed, Meredith's husband." The word hung there. "Husband?" she whispered. "Meredith never— 3 years next month," Nathan said. "We keep our life private, for security reasons." Gasps, whispers. Someone was already Googling him. Dad pushed forward, red-faced. "Some stunt, Meredith." "Hiring actors?" Nathan turned to him. "Mr. Campbell, I'm CEO of Reed Technologies. Your daughter and I married 3 years ago. She preferred to keep our relationship separate from—" He paused, eyes hard. "The environment you've cultivated." Murmurs spread. A groomsman hissed, "Holy shit, it's really him. Forbes cover, 12 billion net worth." Mom's face drained of color. Allison appeared beside her in her wedding gown, confusion curdling into disbelief. "This isn't funny," she snapped. "She's just making it up again." Nathan smiled politely. "Congratulations on your marriage, Mrs. Wellington. Apologies for missing the ceremony. Tokyo meetings ran long. The contrast between his grace and her hostility said everything." Dad opened his mouth, but Nathan's tone sliced through the noise. "I saw you push your daughter into that fountain." The crowd fell silent. Under normal circumstances, I'd file assault charges, but Meredith asked me not to make a scene at her sister's wedding. He glanced at me. "That's who she is, stronger than the people who raised her." Dad's jaw worked soundlessly, and then 2 more figures entered the room. Suits, badges, purpose. "Deputy Director Campbell," one said. "We need your authorization." "It's urgent," the murmurs started again. "Deputy Director of what?" Dad stammered. Nathan turned slightly. "Counterintelligence Operations, FBI." The word director echoed through the ballroom like thunder. Mom's knees wobbled. Someone grabbed her elbow. Allison's mouth opened, closed. "That's impossible." I signed the tablet, my signature crisp. "Proceed with option 2. Tighten surveillance. Yes, ma'am, the agents left. The silence stayed. Nathan, checked his watch. Helicopter's waiting. We have Tokyo on standby. I faced my family. Congratulations on your wedding, Allison. I genuinely wish you happiness. Bradford, to his credit, stepped forward and offered his hand. Director Campbell, Mr. Reed, it's an honor. Dad finally croaked. We've always been proud of you, Meredith. No, I said gently. You haven't, but I don't need you to be. Nathan guided me toward the doors. The crowd parted. Some whispered my name like it was a legend. Others simply stared. We left them behind, stepping into the crisp Boston night. The helicopter blades churned the air on the hotel roof. Nathan leaned close. You sure you're okay? Better than okay, I said. Free. Before we boarded, one of my agents approached. Director, the embassy flagged an anomaly. Possible data leak. We need you rerouted. I nodded instantly. Reroute to the embassy. Alert analysis. Nathan squeezed my hand. Go. I'll follow. As we turned, I saw Mom hurrying up the stairs, wind catching her hair. Meredith, she called, breathless. Please wait. I stopped. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her. You can't just leave like this. We need to talk. I have a national security emergency, Mother. Her eyes darted to the helicopter, the agents back to me. You really are. What they said. Yes, Deputy Director. 18 months now, she swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell us? We would have been proud. Would you? I asked. Or would you have found a way to make it about Allison? Her silence was answer enough. And the marriage? She pressed softly. 3 years? 3, I said. We kept it private because it was ours, the pilot signaled. Will you come back? She asked. So we can start over? I studied her face. For once, it wasn't judgment. It was uncertainty. I don't know, I said. That depends on whether you want to know me or the version that finally fits your expectations. She blinked back tears. Your father was wrong today. What he did was unforgivable. It wasn't an apology, but it was more than I'd ever gotten. Thank you, I said. I need to go. We lifted off. The skyline spread beneath us, glittering and distant. For the first time in my life, I felt light. The embassy alert turned out to be minor. A spoofed transmission contained within hours. By 11 p.m., I was home. Nathan poured wine, and we stood on the balcony watching the city lights ripple over the Charles River. Some wedding, he said. Not quite the reunion I imagined, I admitted. He smiled faintly. The look on your father's face when they called you director was priceless. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time that day. I almost feel bad for them, I said. Almost. You shouldn't, he replied. They built that humiliation. You just walked out of it. My phone buzzed. Unknown number? I'm sorry, Mom's text read. For everything, I didn't answer. Not yet. That night I slept deeper than I had in years. The next week, the photos hit the tabloids. From Fountain to FBI, the shocking reveal at the Wellington wedding. Every outlet wanted the story. I ignored them all. Director Hayes called from D.C. Nice work, Campbell. Not the leak, the PR, I groaned. Sir, it wasn't planned, he laughed. Half of Washington thinks it was. You're a legend. Weeks passed. I expected silence from my parents, but small things started to arrive. A box on my doorstep. Inside, my childhood debate medals and a note from Mom. Found these in the attic. Thought you should have them. Then a card from Dad. Working on being better. One session at a time. Progress, I guess. Months later. I accepted an invitation to dinner at their house. Not for forgiveness, just curiosity. The same dining room, the same silverware. But the energy was different. Dad asked questions instead of giving speeches. Mom complimented the meal instead of criticizing the guests. At dessert, Dad said quietly, I'm proud of you, Meredith, truly. I smiled. Thank you. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. 1 year later, Nathan and I hosted a small gathering at our place. Family, friends, colleagues, Olivia and Bradford came too. Quieter, humbler. My parents laughed with my coworkers. For once, there was no hierarchy, no performance, just people trying. I stood in the kitchen watching them mingle and felt something I'd never felt before in that family. Peace. Nathan slid his arms around me. You did it, he said. You found balance, not perfection, I corrected. Just peace. He kissed my cheek. Same thing. Sometimes I still think about that fountain, about how it felt to hit the water surrounded by laughter. That moment used to define my pain. Now it defines my strength. Because I climbed out, and I never went back in. Have you ever realized your peace mattered more than their approval?